What is up, Fins fans? Welcome back to the Fins Up podcast. I'm your host, Creighton. We're joined here by Larry from Bears Talk Underground. Go ahead and dive into the upcoming game this weekend against the Bears on Sunday. Got a lot to dive into here, but let's start off. I want to welcome you to the show. Appreciate you coming on, Larry. Let's dive in with just starting at the beginning. Tell me about yourself, background, what made you a Bears fan, what made you start a podcast.
Oh boy. Well, the whole Bears fan thing that was passed down. My grandfather was originally from Arkansas, moved up to Chicago in his early 20s, and basically established a home base. And shortly after that, my dad was born, and then I came not too long after that. And they were Bears and Cubs fans. We lived on the north side of the city and everything. So it was just, I really had no choice. It was like, and when you're a little guy like that, you like everything your dad likes because who's cooler than your dad when you're a little guy? And, but the thing was from, his love for the Cubs, his love for the Bears, and, even just a little random fact, his love for Kiss, the rock and roll band, that was the stuff that I liked when I was a kid. But over the years, it's become something that's my own. And, I like the Bears and I love Kiss for my reasons now, as opposed to liking them because my dad did when I was little. And as far as podcasting goes, I am actually a broadcaster by trade. It's what I went to school for. And when the real world opportunities didn't happen, one of my college buddies and I started a podcast back in 2004 when the word didn't exist. There was no such thing as a podcast in 2004. We were still calling it a radio show back then. We did a general sports show called the Sports Talk Underground, and we did that for a few years. And then our schedules kind of got out of whack with each other. I wanted to keep going, so I started up what at the time was called the Chicago Bears Review. And then in 2018, I joined the Sports Drink Media Network and did not want to get sued by the Bears making money off a show called Chicago Bears Review. So I went back to my roots and flipped the name to Bears Talk Underground, and here we are.
Right on. It's quite the history. Been at it for a long time, man. That's cool. So I know that we're here today to preview the upcoming game, but we both had an exciting offseason. So I'd like to start going back to March, February, March, April, that range. You guys obviously had a big offseason. You went to a full new regime. You fired Ryan Pace, the old GM, took out Matt Nagy, the old head coach. You brought in Ryan Poles as the GM and Matt Eberflus as replacements. I want to know how you feel about the new regime. And then we kind of shared something in common as far as hiring a new head coach. So obviously there's a relatively small pool of candidates that were available in that, and the majority of those are being interviewed by more than one team. How did you feel about Matt Eberflus during the process? Was there another guy you had in mind, or were you excited about him moving forward?
I was hot for Dan Quinn when the whole process was started, and the more the process went along, the more that I was warming up to the idea of Dan Quinn, because he knew the mistakes that he made in Atlanta. When he went back to being a defensive coordinator, he became another hot coaching candidate again. He'll probably be one after this season as well, with the way the Cowboys are still playing pretty well underneath him. And he was eager, he was hungry for that second chance so he could right what he did wrong in Atlanta. Because after he took them to the Super Bowl, they pretty much went down south and stayed that way, no pun intended. And he wanted his second chance. He had put himself in a spot to do that. And he seemed like a Chicago guy, which is very important to us Bear fans, that you kind of fit in when you come to Chicago. Like a guy like Mark Trestman, not a Chicago guy. The guy that they should have hired in his place, Bruce Arians, definitely a Chicago guy, a no nonsense, in your face, kind of guy. That's who I wanted. I wanted Arians so bad, and we hired the librarian instead of instead of the janitor. It's like that guy that's got 1,000 secrets and wants to share them with you, kind of thing. Instead, we got the guy who wants you to remember to put your book where you got it from, kind of thing. It's like he was a brilliant offensive mind, but the team fell apart underneath him. The inmates were running the asylum. It was a terrible, terrible mistake. But when Eberflus came around, it was more so the job that Ryan Poles did selling him than it was about being excited about Eberflus. I know he'd done very well in Indianapolis. He comes from, kind of the Lovey Smith tree as far as like it's cover two again, the same, system, the hits principle with the hustle and intensity, going after takeaways and everybody swarming to the football and all that kind of stuff. It sounded like all the right stuff. So it was more like, the sticker shock of hiring this guy. He's kind of got a funny name and, all that kind of stuff. Wasn't really excited about hearing him, but it's been something that's kind of grown over time. And I really appreciate Eberflus and the job that he has done. He seems like an open and honest kind of guy, as transparent as he can be in today's NFL. And I think it's working out okay so far.
Right on. Yeah, it seems like it's been a bit of an up and down season, but it seems like at least in the last few games, the trajectory is heading in the right direction. And that's kind
Especially
of
on
where,
offense. Yeah.
yeah, particularly with Fields. And obviously, it was a full teardown. You traded away Khalil Mack for a 2022 second and a 2023 sixth, and you ate about 24 million in dead cap with that trade this season, but it's saving you 28.5 million next season, which is obviously
Right.
huge heading into the rebuild. You continued saving money. You released Eddie Goldman, Tariq Cohen, Danny Trevathan, and now we're at the trade deadline. And last week they traded away Robert Quinn to the Eagles. And now on Monday, they went ahead and traded Roquan Smith to the Ravens. With that being said, it kind of originally going to the trade deadline, it looked like the Bears were going to go full rebuild and tear this thing down to the studs to build around Justin Fields. The interesting hitch in this came yesterday. Today's Wednesday. Yeah, yesterday, when they traded the 2023 second round pick for Chase Claypool. And this is one that I wanted to get your opinion on
Sure.
because it's an interesting trade to me. Chase Claypool, a bit of an up and down career, looked really good his rookie year. I think he seems like the physical type receiver that, to me, again, like you talked about what you want in a head coach in Chicago. Chase Claypool seems like a bear type of guy, real physical guy, but also some of the personality stuff's a little interesting.
Yeah, that's something that's like the one red flag with Claypool. He is a massive guy. I saw a picture of him from his Notre Dame days standing next to our tight end Cole Kmet, who's 6'6" and about 240, and they were basically eye to eye with each other. He is not a small dude, and we could definitely use a more physical, go up and get it kind of guy. Especially with the way that Fields is under duress a lot and everything. He has to get rid of it probably when he's ready to most of the time. And to be able to just get it up and put it up there for the receiver to go down and get it and actually have a guy who can go up and get it would be really, really nice. Because we missed out on a touchdown on Sunday against the Cowboys because Equinemius St. Brown couldn't win the 50-50 ball in the end zone with his defender. So, but hopefully that Eberflus had a press conference today. He was Claypool was in the building this morning getting his physical to finalize the trade and everything. And they said they sat down and they talked to him. Now they didn't mention anything about the TikToks, but I'm sure that was part of the conversation that yeah, we're not going to do that here. It was like, I'm not Mike Tomlin who's going to jump in and dance with you when you're TikToks or whatever. So we're not going to be having that in the locker room. So just want you to know. I hope that was part of it. It was like, we're going to grow up now and play football and be a professional. No more TikToks. So we'll see. But I was happy. It was interesting, that's for sure. That we were sellers for the first great chunk of it, and then right there before the trade deadline, we became buyers, and we went out and got a guy that can help us right away. And I think one of the things that's kind of getting lost when people talk about Claypool and how his production has gone down, I think he's gone down in production as his quarterback play has suffered. 2020 Roethlisberger, that was his last little great spurt, and Claypool right in line, had a great rookie season with it. But then last year, as Roethlisberger really showed his age, and then this year with Mitch Trubisky and the rookie Kenny Pickett, his production really hasn't been there either. So, I mean, I'm very interested to see what he's going to do with a guy like Justin Fields, who recently is ascending, and to see how these guys take to each other.
I think it'll be interesting too because on the Steelers team, I'm not sure exactly. I want to say he's probably number 2 behind Deontay Johnson. And then you had George Pickens, who with Kenny Pickett seemed to be getting more and more targets. But in the Bears, I think he'll step in right away and he's going to be wide receiver 1 ahead of
Probably.
Darnell Mooney, I
Yeah.
would assume. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. And then the other thing to me, I wanted to know how you feel about the compensation because you look at it, DeAndre Hopkins got traded for a second round pick back in the day. I think part of that's the Bill O'Brien effect.
Yeah.
But also you knew you're going to have to make him a huge contract right away.
It's an odd comparison because DeAndre Hopkins should have been one of those guys that goes for 2 first-round picks, not a second rounder and a busted running back.
Right.
That was just like that was definitely a Bill O'Brien thing. Any real general manager would have gotten 2 first-round picks out of the Cardinals for what could be a future Hall of Famer if he stays on the trajectory that he's on. But it's like it sucks to see that it was second-round pick, but we just got one for Roquan. We had an extra. So we're basically back to zero again as far as our second-round picks are concerned. And we get a guy that we get for the rest of this season and all of next year as well. And this is where we're really going to find out how the Bears are going to progress. Because like you said, we're eating a bunch of dead cap after cutting loose all those contracts and all that kind of stuff. Getting rid of Roquan and Robert Quinn throws even more cap space onto the pile there. Well, I mean, with Roquan, it's money we don't have to pay him. And with Robert Quinn, I think we end up saving like 18 million off of next season's cap because of Robert Quinn. So, it's like you see a second round pick and everybody's freaking out about a second round pick. And if it was our only second round pick, yeah, I would probably be a little bit more upset about it, because this is a guy that's proclaimed, I want to build through the draft, and you gave away a second round pick, and it was our second round pick, not Pittsburgh's, or Baltimore's. But because we still have that second rounder with Baltimore, takes a bit of the sting out of it because we still have a second round choice.
Take the edge off.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure I still have this right after the deadline. After the Roquan trade, the Bears now have their 2023 first, the Ravens 2023 second, a third, 2 fourths, 2 fifths, nothing in the 6th, and a 7th round pick. So still a great 2023 draft. And along with that, they're going to be sitting on 121.7 million in cap space projected in 2023. So if they want to go out and make a splash in free agency, they're set up to build from the ground up.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that we use that money for the trenches, offensive, defensive linemen, to improve there, because the offensive line is awesome in the running game, but we really need pass protectors, so our quarterback will still be alive by the time we get to the end of next year. Because if this wasn't a very important year for Justin Fields, next year is going to be especially important, because based on next year's how the Bears are going to determine, do we pick up that 5th-year option, or is it make or break during that 4th year, and things like that. So what we've been waiting to see from Justin Fields, we've seen since the mini bye in these last 2 games against the Patriots and the Cowboys. And, now we got a target out of nowhere for Chase Claypool. And, that's probably going to help Darnell Mooney, because now the defense has to pay attention to more than just Darnell Mooney that could do wonders as far as opening things up in the passing game.
Right on. Yeah, I was curious to ask you too. What did you feel about the Roquan Smith trade? This was somebody that I had brought up on the show that I was curious if Miami would target. Obviously, we went the Bradley Chubb route. How did you feel about having to give away on my list? I'd probably have him as number 2 for an inside linebacker behind Fred Warner.
Right. Well, you're forgetting about Shaq Leonard, probably because he's been injured most of the season, but I would put him behind those guys. The problem is I love Roquan, and he, like Ryan Poles said, this is definitely somebody he thought would be here long-term, somebody that would be a Bear for life kind of thing, because he definitely is that kind of guy. Chicago loves Roquan. However, many, many times, not just this year, but also in the past, Roquan's desired price tag has been his worst enemy, because he says he wants to make $20 million a season, but he often does not make the play a $20 million a year player would make. The play that Shaq Leonard would make, the play that Fred Warner would make, or even Bobby Wagner, and for all those years in Seattle and now in Los Angeles and everything. Like specifically on Sunday, 3rd and 1, the Bears have a run blitz coming from the backside, so they're chasing Tony Pollard. Roquan's in the hole, meets him in the hold. Tony Pollard makes him miss. Once he broke the line of scrimmage, he was gone for a touchdown. You want to make $20 million a year, you got to make that play. You got to make that play. And there have been other plays this year alone that a $20 million a year player should make, and he didn't. Now, I think Roquan is one of the best in the league. Absolutely. I hate to see him go. But if it was going to take $20 million a year to keep him, then let somebody else pay him. He can go ahead and because if you think the spotlight is hot on Roquan now, it is going to be white hot after we give you the money that you wanted and you don't live up to it. So I think it's better for everybody that he's not here. That let him be under that white hot spotlight someplace else, and we'll see what we can do with guys like AJ Klein, who we got in return for Roquan, or Jack Sanborn, or Nicholas Morrow, or Joe Thomas, or whoever we have in that linebacking core that are here and will do what they can in his stead.
I like Jack Sanborn coming out. I'd be curious if he can step up.
He's a stud, man. I just it's one of those things, like he's not one of the most athletically gifted guys, but he always seems to be in the right spot at the right time. So, I mean, I fell in love with him during the preseason. The guy was absolutely everywhere, making every tackle that he could. And, with Roquan ending his holdout and coming back and all that kind of stuff, haven't seen him much more than special teams, but hopefully we'll get to see some of them out there getting some real action.
Yeah, might get some playtime now with the spot opening up a little bit. All right, so let's dive into the game that we caught coming up on Sunday. I want to start off on staying on the Bears' defensive side of the ball. Obviously, now you do have Roquan going out. That's going to be a big hole to fill. The Bears currently rank 19th in the league in points allowed per game with 22.6. They're 31st in the league in rush defense, allowing 156 rush yards per game. But they're the opposite on the air yard side of the game, ranking 5th in the league, allowing just 188 yards a game. So what do you think it is that's been – I mean, obviously you got Eberflus coming in. Is he calling plays on defense, I'm assuming?
They say it's Alan Williams, but I see a lot of chatter going on, him covering up the mouthpiece and whatever when he's calling plays on the sidelines and stuff like that. So I don't know if he's recommending something or if he's flat out calling the plays. He said from the beginning he was going to be the CEO type head coach, where the OC is going to call the offense, the DC is going to call the defense. So that leads us to believe Alan Williams is the one doing the play calling. But like I said, you do see a lot of chatter out of him on the defensive side when between plays and whatnot. So I wouldn't say that he's not calling the defensive plays. I'm just saying that
allegedly he's not.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's not 100% him. Like, I'm sure he puts his input where it's needed and whatnot. But the word on the street, it's Alan Williams that's doing the calling of the defense so far.
Right on. And what do you think is on both sides of the ball? Obviously, really struggling in run D, playing extremely well in pass defense. What do you think is causing both of those things?
Well, we have an improved secondary. That was a big weakness at the end of the year last year. Well, our top two picks, Kyler Gordon, Jaquan Brisker, are doing their part to fill in. Kyler Gordon really coming on after struggling the first five or 6 weeks of the year. Jaquan Brisker has been a stud out of the gate to go along with an improved Eddie Jackson, who didn't have an interception basically for 2.5 seasons. He's got 4 to lead the league so far. In 8 games, he's got 4 interceptions, and they weren't like those gimme interceptions, because the last interception that he got back in like 2019 or whatever it was a Hail Mary, where that's basically a throwaway, type deal. Like, but he's got 4 legit, oops, I'll take that interceptions, as opposed to something that was off of somebody's hands or, a Hail Mary or something garbage like that. Eddie Jackson appears to be back, and he's also improved quite a bit in his tackling, which was a joke for the last couple of seasons. But it's like our pass rush really isn't there. That's one of the reasons why I think Ryan Poles was able to part with Robert Quinn, was that the guy that took the franchise record from Richard Dent last year with 18.5 sacks has won through 7 games before we traded him after the Patriots game. That Patriot game was ironically his best game of the season. He didn't get a sack, but he was there. He was pressuring, Bailey Zappi or Mac Jones or whoever was playing quarterback in that one. He would virtually non-existent in the first games of the season. His 1 sack came week 2 against Green Bay. So, he wasn't the sack machine that he was all throughout last season. And, the running game, it's just we have 3-4 defensive linemen playing a 4-3 scheme right now. That was the one thing that people were critical of Poles in the draft, was that he went secondary when there were defensive and offensive linemen or even wide receivers there to be taken with those second round picks. Like, we could have had George Pickens instead of Kyler Gordon and, or Jaquan Brisker. It's like, I don't regret those picks now, but you know, we're regretting it as far as, like, the swinging gate that is our defensive run game right now. And that also goes again to Roquan. Yeah, he's leading the league in tackles, but where are those tackles taking place? In the second and third level. Now, he's not making many tackles at the line of scrimmage because he's getting eaten alive by offensive linemen. He's not good at shedding blocks. He's a guy that's amazing when he's clean, but if he has to shed a tackle or shed a block or anything like that, Roquan can be virtually ineffective when that happens. So those are the reasons. We've got a lot of new guys playing a system that we didn't bring him here for originally. Like Angelo Blackson, he's a nose tackle. He's not a 3-4 or not a 3 technique or an inside defensive tackle kind of guy. So, but that's also why we parted with Eddie Goldman, why Akeem Hicks isn't around anymore, because they didn't fit what the Bears were switching back to. So it's just a matter of Poles, being able to get those guys in place. And Ryan Pace left the cupboard bare with 5 draft picks and like $20 million or so in cap space. He did not have a lot to work with coming in. So he did what he could where he could, and he took a lot of heat for it because it just looked like he wasn't doing something. But he did what he could, and I think we're going to be okay. And I was like, we all knew this was going to be a tough year, but we got virtually $100 million more in cap space than we did this past offseason waiting for us in 2023. So if there's help to be had, he'll find it.
Right on. I was going to say, I see a lot of similarities between the 2022 Bears and the 2021 Dolphins. You have a defensive-minded head coach, which I don't know if you think that had any impact on your draft. You went very defensive-heavy, which is what we did a lot under Brian Flores, instead of giving Tua, a young quarterback, weapons to build around. Obviously, we had Jalen Waddle in the 2021 draft, but really, there's probably receiver names that the typical fan wouldn't recognize, like Malcolm Perry, Lynn Bowden Jr., Devontae Parker, obviously, is kind of one that stands out that went to the Patriots now.
Did you say Lynn Bone?
Lynn Bowden.
Oh, Lynn Bowden. I was like, what the hell kind of name is Lynn Bone?
But yeah, so a lot of, and I feel like the Bears are in a similar situation. You brought in St. Brown, you brought in
Byron Pringle.
Right.
And
has he seen the field? I haven't watched a ton of Bears games.
He's been out. He actually just, I think last week before the Cowboys game, started his 21-day window to come off of IR. He had some kind of calf injury, I think, and they put him on IR with the calf injury. So he's returned to practice and opened up his 21-day window. So maybe we'll see some action, but all of a sudden the wide receiver room is a lot more interesting than it was before he got hurt.
So, yeah, especially with the addition of Claypool. That's a big
Claypool is back, or Claypool is on the team. N'Keal Harry, who we acquired during the preseason, had ankle surgery and was out until last week. So now he's healthy and he's playing, scored his first touchdown against the Cowboys on Sunday and everything. So now he's in the mix where he wasn't before Pringle got hurt. It was like before, when Pringle got hurt, it was him and Mooney, maybe Dante Pettis, maybe St. Brown, but now it's Claypool, Mooney, Harry, and then we get to Pringle and St. Brown and things like that. So the wide receiver room's a lot more interesting than it was when he got hurt.
Right, and that'll mix things up here right in the middle of the season.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so a lot of similarities between that and the Dolphin situation. Starting to add some additions to build around Fields with Claypool coming in. I think that, like you said, next season's going to be the big tell on Justin Fields. It's starting to trend in the right direction here midway through the season. Obviously, you got to see some consistency, see if that's carried throughout the year. But we've seen what happened with Tua from last year to this year, adding Tyreek Hill. We added Cedric Wilson, who hasn't done anything. Brought in Mike McDaniel, who's a new scheme, who I think deserves way more credit than what I think he's getting. A lot of people obviously go straight to Tyreek Hill. It's McDaniel's scheme that is getting these guys open and allowing Tua to be able to use the things that he does well: quick ball movement, quick feet, to hit those guys in space. But I'd be curious, like you said, the draft is pretty opened up. You stocked up, get out of a lot of that dead cap next season. I just saw a post earlier today about the 2023 free agent wide receiver market. There wasn't a lot of
No.
blow your mind,
Which
candidates
also,
today.
makes the Claypool move make a lot more sense
Mhm.
as well. Not to mention, as a vindictive Bear fan, to hear that the Bears outbid the Packers to get Claypool, very satisfying, because then Claypool doesn't get to kick our ass twice a year for the next decade to replace Devontae Adams or whatever. So yeah, and also what even makes it even more funny was that Rodgers was on the Pat McAfee show
I heard
talking
that
about, like,
today.
basically expecting to hear any moment that they've made a move, or that they were in on Claypool or whatever, only to hear that he's gone to Chicago. So yeah, I don't know. That seemed like a nice little sweetener on the deal, that this was something that Rodgers wanted and he didn't get. So
It's
I don't know.
a that kind of I was going to bring that up earlier too. It kind of makes it make more sense on why a second round pick ended up being what was needed, because there was a bidding war going on between you and your division rival Packers.
Well, I mean, they like to make it sound like Pittsburgh was a genius, because you very rarely get back what you put in for a player. They used a second round pick to bring Claypool in. It's rare that you'll get a second round pick after the fact for him as well. So that makes the Steelers look really, really good. But the Bears had a second round pick to spare, and we were in a little bit of a bidding war with our biggest rival. And this is somebody that could hurt us directly if we let that happen. Pittsburgh decided to make the deal with us, so we get to hurt them instead.
Yeah, it's a big
Knock
win.
on wood.
So moving on to the offensive side of the ball for the Bears, they're currently number 23 in the league in points per game. Again, we've brought up before that the offense is trending in the right direction. A lot of that being as low as it is has to do with the early part of the season when there was
Oh
a lot
yeah.
of struggles going on. The Bears ranked number one in the league in run percentage, running the ball 60% of the time, leaving them obviously to be 32nd in the league in pass percentage with only 40% of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and expectantly, it goes hand in hand. They're number one in the league for rush yards per game with 188 yards, number 32 in the league for pass yards per game at 127. Again, that pass yards number to me is somewhat deceiving. After the last 2 weeks, they're starting to look a lot better. I had it pulled up right here. You guys put up 33, obviously, against the Patriots on Monday night, which, by the way, as a Dolphins fan, you'll love to see it. We really appreciate you guys going in there and getting that done.
I wasn't expecting it, so it was a pleasant surprise and a lot of fun to watch, because the Bears, I think, had yet to beat Belichick, because we had to wait until 2020 when Brady came with the Buccaneers to finally beat him for the first time. And we only get to play you guys once every 4 years, because of the way the schedule works and everything. So we don't get many shots at Belichick, and we hadn't beaten him yet. And we finally got over that hump on Monday in Foxborough. And
I was gonna say, that's the part that feels extra good.
held him off for 1 week, because he finally did it this past week against the Jets. We kept him from breaking or beating Papa Bear Hallis in the all-time win total by not letting him beat us. So he did it on Sunday against the Jets for a win number 325, but he didn't do it against us. So
I was gonna say, it feels
that was
good that at
cool.
least he doesn't get that W against the
Yeah,
Bears. Yeah.
he
Yeah.
didn't get to overtake Papa Bear by beating up on his old team. It's like that was pretty cool. So
Yeah, and then you guys kind of continued that momentum on offense. I know we took the loss in Dallas, but they did put up 29 points. And I don't
yeah,
know, I don't have it pulled up exactly where Dallas ranks in the league on defense, but they have Micah Parsons, who's in conversations for MVP of the league, let alone Defensive Player of the Year. So just to put up 29 points on Dallas has to feel good, especially with the turmoil early in the season.
well, it was encouraging because, like the New England game, all those points came from the offense. It wasn't like, oh, we scored, 17 on offense and we got a pick six out of the defense, or a punt return, or a kick return, or anything like that. All 29 of those points came from the offense. We scored 4 touchdowns and kicked the field goal on that one. And if we'd have been going for extra points instead of 2 pointers, we would have scored 31. So back-to-back 30-point games from an offense that struggled to score 7 against the Commanders 2 weeks ago is quite an improvement. I mean, the Bears did a hell of a job self-scouting for it to be such a night and day change, because Justin Fields only threw for 151 yards on Sunday against the Cowboys, but he was 17 of 23 versus earlier in the season where he was 11 of 23 or 10 for 21 or something. He's not even completing 50 yards or 50% of his passes and things like that. Now he's I don't know if he's seeing the field better or if he's just more confident, but 17 of 23 is closer to 70% than it is to 50. And that's the kind of thing that I felt was far more important than how many yards he actually threw for. Because with the way that we're running the football, with Herbert and Montgomery just being monsters back there, the 150 wasn't so much as impressive as it was the 17 of 23.
Yeah, you're just looking for the efficiency.
Yeah, because the more you complete, the better you're going to do. So the yards will come if that completion percentage stays the same. If we dip back into the high 40s and low 50s again, then obviously we're not hitting our targets. We're not getting our yardage. But if you're 17 of 23 or 21 of 27 or something like that, the yards are going to come as long as you stay efficient like that. It also it's going to open up the running game as well, because they're not going to be able to just clock 8-9 guys in the box when you're moving the chains through the passing game. And we're already kicking ass in the running game. If we get the defense off the line of scrimmage, because they have to play the pass just as much as they do the run, then we're going to be in good shape offensively.
Yeah, it's been really fun too to see them start to get the RPO involved, because obviously you have the best run game in the league. You can play off play action as well as the athleticism of Justin Fields. Give the defense as many things to think about as you possibly can.
Absolutely.
And then along with the completion percentage, if the percentage is going up, even if the yardage isn't high, then odds are your third down conversion is going up as well, because the times when you're throwing the ball are when you probably can't pick up a third down on the ground.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, if you just to go real back on the defense real quick, you reminded me that's been a terrible weakness for our defense. A few weeks ago when we played the Vikings, they were 12 of 15 on third down. The Cowboys this past Sunday were like 9 of 10, 9 of 11 or something like that. If you can't get off the field, well, I mean, they had the ball 5 times in the first half. They scored 4 touchdowns before Eddie Jackson's interception just before halftime. That's no way to win a football game. You give up 28 points in the first half. That's a recipe for disaster. So, then it just became like, the fact that it was 28-17 at halftime because Justin Fields in the offense, after going 3 and out on the opening drive, had basically scored the rest of the half with the rest of their drives. We're keeping pace with this offense because our defense was a swinging gate. They absolutely could not stop the Cowboys from doing anything. Dak Prescott was throwing it all over the place, and Tony Pollard was just ramming it right down our throats all day long. I mean, but it was all like third down. Anytime we could get them to third down, no matter the distance, they converted 90% of their third down conversions on Sunday. That's no way to play football. You're not going to win if you do that. So third down has been a huge killer for it. I mean, and then on Monday against the Patriots, I think they were 4 of 11 or something like that. That's how you win football games, if they're only converting like 1/3 of their third down conversions, not 90 friggin' percent, or what was it, 85% or whatever it was for the Vikings. Is like, you're just asking for trouble when you can't get yourself off the field.
Well, particularly with the style of offense that the Bears play, like, you guys can play the time of possession, keep the score down, slug it out type of football game, but in order to do that, you're relying on your defense to be able to get off the field. And then
I mean, we lost the game. We lost the game on Sunday by 20 points. We ran 17 more plays and had the ball for 8 more minutes than the Cow, and we still lost by 3 scores.
Yeah, that's tough.
That's bad. That's very bad.
Yeah.
So I was talking to my dad about it. It was like the thing that was disturbing me about the Cowboys game was that the first drive, 12 plays, 75 yards. Second drive, 9 plays, 75 yards. Third drive, 6 plays. It was like, anybody see a trend here? It's getting easier for them to score. How about, we make some kind of adjustment? That's been the big beef with Alan Williams. He is brilliant at halftime adjustments because the Bears in the third and fourth quarter have the best defense in football. Nobody scores points on this defense in the second half. The Cowboys only scored 14. And they're the exception, not the rule, because we didn't allow a touchdown in the second half until week 5 or something like that against the Giants. Otherwise, maybe somebody kicks a field goal, but nobody scored a touchdown on us until like the 5th or 6th week of the season in the second half, and everything. So he's really good at making adjustments. It's like, but apparently he's lousy at preparing for the game because we're just giving up all the yards and all the points in the first 2 quarters and then figuring it out from there in the second half. So
the Dolphins have been in like a super similar boat. That's how we came back against the Ravens early in the season. And then even this last week against the Lions, we got decimated in the first half, and then we only gave up 69 total yards in the second half.
there you go.
I don't know what the same thing. It's like, okay, so clearly you figured it out, but what we couldn't have started with this from the beginning and not started off down 14-0. Like,
Right.
okay. But all right, so moving on to the Dolphins side of the ball. They're just behind the Bears in defensive ranking at number 22, giving up 24 points a game. They rank number 6. It's the opposite. Everything on this is going to be the opposite. So they're number 6 in the league in rush defense, allowing just 100 yards per game on the ground. And again, opposite. So we go to the air side of the ball. We're number 26 in the league, allowing 262 yards a game.
Wow.
And then the offensive side of the ball, this is going to be a strength-on-strength matchup. Once again, Miami's number 16 in the league in points scored per game with 22, which number 16 is, to me, kind of deceiving just because you had a 7th-round rookie in a game when Teddy Bridgewater went out against the Jets on the first play of the game. And then you had Skylar Thompson in the whole rest of the game. Then you had Teddy Bridgewater play a couple games while Tua was hurt with the concussion. So we'd be higher if Tua would have stayed in as the starter. But they're near the bottom of the league in rush yards per game at number 28. They only get 88 rush yards a game. Again, very lopsided because we're near the top of the league in pass yards at number 3 with 293 pass yards a game. So this is going to be a strength on strength. The Bears' rushing defense hasn't been great, but their passing defense has been great. It'll be interesting. We picked up Jeff Wilson Jr. at the trade deadline, I believe he's number 7 in the league in rush yards above expectation. And he's going to be familiar with the playbook. I would expect him to play on Sunday coming out of where Mike McDaniel came from. I don't think there should be a huge getting up to speed window there. And then, so you have a 2-headed monster with him and Mostert. Edmonds was playing terrible, so now he's off to Denver. And then on the defensive side of the ball, I'm going to be honest, I don't know what to think of this Miami team because we've been decimated in the secondary. Byron Jones, similar to Byron Pringle, must just come with the name, has been on the PUP list, still hasn't opened up his 21-day window. He was originally supposed to be back for the start of the season. All he had was a orthoscopic surgery on his Achilles, just a cleanup surgery, and wasn't supposed to miss any time. And now here we are in week 9. He's still not back. So I don't know what the hell's going on there.
Kind of like Tariq Cohen. Tariq Cohen got hurt week 3 of 2020. So you figure, well, one of the silver linings of getting hurt that early in the season with a season-ending injury is that by the time the actual season is over, all of the hard stuff is done. You've had the surgery, you've done the rehab. Now it's time to strengthen up and, get ready for the upcoming season. Well, we get to 2021. He's still limping around in training camp. He never practiced in training camp. He didn't play it down in 2021. And what was worse was that the Bears were mum as to what was going on with him. Not a word. And then the new regime comes in. He fails his physical. They let him go. So that sucked. And then he does an Instagram live to show people that he's working out and getting ready, blows out his Achilles on Instagram live. So if Tariq Cohen finds somebody to take him in 2023, it will be almost 3 full calendar years since he's played a game for our torn ACL. And it's like, because I was like, what is going on with Tariq Cohen? There are guys who got hurt after him that came back before him. I was like, I don't understand what's going on. Did he have a setback? Did he have a second surgery? Was there some scar tissue that was hindering him? Nothing from the Bears, not a word. And now he's, recovering from an Achilles injury because he was trying to get ready for 2022 as a free agent after the Bears cut him. It's, something, it's obviously it's a catastrophic injury, but it's something that's routine in the NFL. You see guys get ACLs, they're back in 9 months, and maybe they're not 100% in that first year, but they're back and they're playing, and then the year after that they're off to the races and they're back and healthy and all that kind of stuff. But with Tariq Cohen, he was out basically 2 full seasons, and didn't play it down. And now with this new injury with the Achilles, it'll be almost 3 full calendar years. Got hurt week 3. I mean, it's going to be tough for him to come back from. I hope he can pull it off.
I feel like the ruptured Achilles, we just had Nick Needham do that earlier this year. I just can't imagine that injury. I don't know what it is for me. Thinking about your Achilles tendons popping, that just sounds terrible.
Yeah.
It's just not a good time. Yeah, it's interesting to me with the ACLs because there's so much variance between guys. You had like AP, who's obviously a freak.
Yeah.
He's gone 6 months, comes back, and he just looks like AP again. No issue.
You're seeing something similar though, like with David Bakhtiari for the Packers. He got hurt at the end of like 2020. And missed most of 2021, but came back kind of like at the end of the year, but that made sense. He got hurt at the end of the season, so it's usually a full year before you're ready to go. 9 to 12 months is the timeline for that injury. So, but here we are in 2022. He's practicing. He's in the lineup. He's out of the lineup. He's in the lineup. He's out, and it's always the knee. So something either didn't go right, or too many miles and not a lot of tread on the tires, or what have you. But the Packers have gotten more out of him than the Bears ever got out of Tariq Cohen as far as that injury goes. So there had to be something else going on with it. And, Ryan Pace was like a vault. He wouldn't tell us anything as far as what was going on with him. So that made it especially frustrating. So
it's always interesting to me too. I listened to the Pat McAfee show as well, and they were talking about it on there with David Bakhtiari, talking about how when you come back from an injury like that, it can also be a confidence thing. Like, I don't want to blow this out again. It's never going to feel exactly the way it did before you blew it out. Whether it's 100% or not, it's not going to feel the same, and you're going to have some confidence, trust issues with the knee. And they were talking about how they're curious if that could be what's going on with Bakhtiari. I mean, obviously, I have no idea. Only Dave.
Well, I mean, he's an offensive lineman. I can relate to that. I was an offensive lineman as well. A lot of scary stuff can go on in the trenches, people falling on your legs, caving in your, I remember once a guy shot the gap to get my running back, ran right. Like I was engaged with my guy. The guy ran between me and the guard and came in so fast that he kind of whipped around the running back and his legs swung and kicked me in my back. Now I wasn't hurt, but it scared the hell out of me. I mean, just all of a sudden I've been, caved in from the backside and I'm on the ground and I don't really understand why. It shook me up. It was like, I wasn't like physically hurt. It didn't feel good, obviously, but it's like crazy things like that happen all the time. And you see guys, they're engaged with and then somebody else comes from behind and boom, there go his knees and things like that. So I don't know if it's so much confidence, whereas like maybe he just can't shake I don't want to say fear, but maybe he's just nervous about being in the trenches again because of the way it happened or what have you. It's so easy for something like that to happen to linemen. We see it happen all the time. So like the Buccaneers and their center, I forget what his name is,
Ryan Jensen. Yeah.
Like second play of all of training camp, he got rolled up, and like they weren't even in pads or whatever. He just got rolled up. He's done. He's probably not coming back. I mean, they said that they wouldn't put him on IR or whatever, but they're probably not going to see him again this year.
It's any given play.
He got rolled up on the first day of training camp. So, I mean, things like that happen all the time.
All right, so let's jump into what do you think is going to happen in this matchup? Obviously, we talked about the offensive versus the defensive side of the ball. It's going to be strength on strength. The strength of the Packers. The Bears defense is the pass defense. The strength of the Miami offense is the pass, and the vice versa is true with the run. I think the last 2 games, Miami's run game has really been trending in the right direction, getting away from Chase Edmonds. Raheem Mostert's been running the ball a lot more. He's been averaging about 5 yards per carry. Jeff Wilson coming in, he's number 14 in the league with 5.2 yards a carry. I don't know, again, it's going to be the first game. So we're going to have to find out what the split's going to be between Mostert and Jeff Wilson. We'll have to see. But what do you think going into this matchup? Fields is starting to trend in the right direction. It's strength on strength on that side too. Miami's number 5 on rush D, toward the bottom of the league in passing.
It's all going to come down to our defense versus your offense, and how we handle that, because we're terrible against the run, and statistically we're much better against the pass, but you don't need a whole lot of yards in order to score a lot of points. The Cowboys just proved that. Dak Prescott only threw for like 240 against the Bears, but they put up 49 points in that. I know Tony Pollard and his 3 touchdowns had a lot to do with that, but that's also 3 passing touchdowns that we gave up to the Cowboys as well. I mean, and I think Dak was like 21 of 25. Virtually any throw that he made was completed on Sunday. So, maybe we're not giving up a ton of yards in the passing game, but we got gouged pretty bad by the Cowboys. And you guys are and the thing about you guys and your speed and everything is that you don't need to beat us 50 yards down the field to get 50 yards worth of completions. You can hit Tyreek Hill on a 5-yard slant and he'll take the rest for 50 yards. You see him, he made his name in Kansas City doing that. Waddle's got that kind of speed as well. Gesicki is one of the better tight ends in the league as well. So as long as you guys can keep Tua clean and upright, which shouldn't be too difficult against our pass rush, he might probably be able to sit back there and pick us apart. So, and it'll just be a matter of the thing about the cover 2 is that it's designed to keep everything in front of you. You're not going to give up the big play. So it doesn't take a whole lot of yards to that's why we've been able to stay statistically on the right side of things in the passing game. But we can be vulnerable in the pass game. We just don't give up the big play. But I was like, it's going to be our offense versus your defense to see how Claypool factors into things and how he can help. If he can truly open things up for Darnell Mooney and make him a weapon again, like when he first came in with the Bears and it was him and Allen Robinson who complemented each other very well. The Cowboys had a top 10 run defense too, and we run for 200 yards against them on Sunday. So if your run defense holds up, I think you guys are going to be in pretty good shape. But the thing about the run statistics is that at least a third of that, 188 yards a game, belongs to Justin Fields. And those, more times than not, those are yards he's creating on his own. There's a pass play. It wasn't there. The pocket opens up. He's taken off. I can't tell you how many times, he's created a third down that wasn't there initially with the play call, but he created it and got a first down with his feet kind of thing. So keep somebody in to spy Justin Fields, choke up the running game, and then hope for the best with the passing game. Not to say that we're going to carve you guys up or anything, but it's not our strength. If you can slow down Justin Fields, you can bottle up the running game. Looks like a pretty good day for you guys. Not to mention the Miami Dolphins. It's just one of those things. You see it all over the league. The Dolphins have just always had our number. Twice. So in my lifetime, the Chicago Bears have gone to 2 Super Bowls. 2. Both times, they beat our undefeated teams. They beat us when we were 12-0 in 85, that infamous Monday night game where the 72 Dolphins were standing on the sidelines and, mean mugging the Bears the whole night. And then fast forward to 2006, the Bears are 6-0, 7-0 against the 1-6 Dolphins in Chicago. Jason Taylor, basically made his case for defensive MVP that year in that game. He had an interception for a touchdown. He was up, Rex Grossman's butt the whole night and all that kind of stuff. So, it's just one of those things. And then 2018, the last great team that we had, we come into you guys off of a bye week, nonetheless, and you end up beating us in overtime because Brock Osweiler threw for 380 and 3 touchdowns against us. So, yeah, history is on your side, dude. The Dolphins kind of have the Bears number, and the matchup is in your favor. So I'm looking forward to it because I want to see what Claypool is going to look like in our offense and what that has to do. But I'm also terrified that you guys have Bradley Chubb now, and pass protection is not exactly our strong suit. So we'll see what kind of introduction to the Dolphin fan base he has against us on Sunday. That's a factor as well.
So 2 questions. So one, the Dolphins, which it's been like this for years. So Josh Boyer is our defensive coordinator. He was kept on from the previous staff with Brian Flores to continue to run the defense. And this defense is known for coming out and being extremely aggressive, run a lot of zero coverage, just man up, just get to the quarterback, and you have really strong. Probably we had the highest paid secondary in the league between Xavier Howard, Byron Jones are the two over 20 million each at corner.
Hmm.
Again, Byron Jones hasn't played it all this year, and they've been continuing to try to use the same scheme. And I believe that's why we're near the bottom of the league in pass coverages because it's not working. You've got an undrafted free agent in Kader Kohu who has played really well for an undrafted free agent, but he's been having to play that corner two spot with Nick Needham blowing out his Achilles a few weeks ago. And then against, for instance, 2 weeks ago against the Steelers, which we actually held them to 10 points, but Kenny Pickett has not been good.
Right.
You had 3 corners total in the game. You had Xavier Howard, Noah Igbenogany, and Justin Bethel. Noah Igbenogany's hardly been on the field at all. He can't even be active. He's a healthy scratch because he's played so bad. And Justin Bethel, who's currently, I think, in his 9th season, has never even played on the defensive side of the ball. Lifelong special teamer. He's being forced into play because of how beat up our secondary is. The thought with the Bradley Chubb move is to change schemes midseason and start to play more zone. Don't let people beat, like you guys said with cover two, don't let people beat you over the top. Let an organic pass rush between Bradley Chubb, Jalen Phillips, Emmanuel Ogba, and Melvin Ingram. Let those guys get your pressure, and you just stay back and don't get beat because the adjustment has to be made. You don't have the elite secondary that you had last year, the year before, et cetera, with the injuries to the secondary. So it's time to make an adjustment. Javon Hollins had a hell of a season. Xavier Howard honestly hasn't been great. So it's going to be interesting going into the game with the adjustment. On your guys' side of the ball, you said that you stay in cover two. Jalen Johnson, right, is your best corner. Kyler Gordon, you said, was starting to trend.
He's been playing more in the slot than he's been more of our nickel guy. Kendall Vildor has been more of our CB2,
Okay.
if you will. I'm hoping that changes as Kyler Gordon adjusts more to the speed of the NFL. Kind of because in those first 4 or 5 weeks, if a guy was running a dig route across the field, he usually had number 6 running behind him, trailing after him and, trying to catch the guy and everything. But he's been very solid these last couple of weeks. Had his best game of the year against the Patriots. Nearly had a pick 6 at the end of the game, which was fun to watch. But yeah, it's Vildor and Johnson are outside corners, and Kyler Gordon's been more the inside guy.
Okay, so Jaquan Brisker, Eddie Jackson, both having great seasons. I think safety play is one of the most important things against this Dolphins team. Like you said, you can't afford to get beat over the top. Right. We're actually only 20th in the league in yards after catch. You would expect us to be a lot higher with Waddle and Hill, but it honestly hasn't been a lot of that. It's been he has 32 completions of 10 yards or more over the middle of the field. Tom Brady's the next closest guy with 16, and Tua has missed 3 games. So that's been where we've been killing guys, is over the middle for 10 plus yards and not getting much after the catch. So it sounds like you guys play a lot of cover 2 shell. Deep middle is allegedly where you try to target. Sometimes that'll work. Sometimes that won't. Tua has great ability to move defenders with his eyes. That's where I would expect Miami to be trying to target. Do you expect – my question going into this is always Tyreek and Waddle are obviously by far the biggest issues when you're facing the Miami Dolphins.
Sure.
And what's been curious, some teams try to have, if they have an elite corner, try to have one of them shade Tyreek or shade Waddle and then bracket the other. Do you expect Chicago just to play straight up zone? Do you expect them to throw any wrinkles? How do you expect them to try to target those 2 elite players?
Well, I mean, I think we'll do a bit of both, because when Jalen Johnson spoke to the media earlier today, they asked him if he wanted to follow Tyreek Hill around. His answer was yes. He wanted to be the one covering Tyreek Hill, but that's his mentality. It doesn't mean that they're going to let him do it. But the other thing is, you're talking about, your strength in the passing game comes over the middle, like that little 10-yard buffer in the middle of the field. That's where the cover 2 defense that's its weak point. That little area behind the linebackers in front of the safety kind of thing is where you can, eat your meal against the cover 2. And if that's something you guys are good at, it could be something that, Alan Williams is desperately making adjustments for at halftime when we're down 31-0 or whatever. But we'll have to see. I mean, I think that we'll see a bit of both, that, Jalen Johnson will stick with Tyreek Hill, or maybe he'll flip and he'll follow Jaden Waddle around or kind of thing. The Bears aren't married to the idea of Jalen Johnson is our left corner and Kindle Vildor is our right corner. They'll move the guys around. So, however the defensive alignment calls for. But I suspect at times we'll see, wherever Tyreek Hill goes, Jalen Johnson follows him, kind of thing. I just don't know if it's something, especially if Jalen Waddle or something like that is starting to have a day while Tyreek Hill is being bottled up by Jalen Johnson. Eventually, they're going to have to do something to figure that out. So whether it's flipping Johnson over to Waddle or tightening things up on the other side or what have you, we'll have to wait and see. I think this is going to be a very important game for our rushers to get to Tua, or something that we had a lot of success with against the Patriots is getting your damn hands up. Tua's not the tallest quarterback in the world, so we get our hands up, we might be able to, prevent some of those big plays from taking place.
Right on. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. It'll be honestly, I'm not going into this game full confident. I think a lot of Patriots fans, I'm sure if you listen to Pat, you heard Boston Connor on there. As a Dolphins fan, I was stoked to get to hear him eat crow. I'm not going into this game overly confident. I think part of that is, as a Dolphins fan, you just don't really feel like you have the right to ever go into a game full confidence. There's a reason that we've had to deal with this for the last 20 years. It's been an interesting feeling this year. I think Tua, in my lifetime, I'm too young. I didn't get to see the Dan Marino age. I wasn't there for that. So I haven't seen a good, I mean, Tannehill you could maybe call good. I haven't seen what I would consider a franchise guy or a good
Sure.
quarterback in my lifetime. Tua is trending that direction this year if he can stay healthy. So it's weird. The confidence for me to just go in even against a team that's in the middle of a rebuild, for me, it's not there, especially when you have to go into Chicago. So I would expect a win, but I'm not expecting us to blow them out.
Sure.
We still only beat the Lions by one possession last week. And I don't see
Yeah.
them they're 1-6. So it'll be
the Lions are scrappy, man. They're going to be a tough out for everybody. They're not going to win football games, but they're going to make you pay for it. And I'm with you. It's like, I think this is a game that the Bears can win. It's the real question that more times than not has been, where the answer has been no, is will they? And I believe they can. I believe that, like we've been talking, it sounds like strength against strength, and it's just going to be a matter of who wins the day, kind of thing. It's all going to come down to that. In the end, I think the Dolphins are the better team. So when I do my NFL show and I pick the game, I'm probably going to pick the Dolphins, but I'll be rooting for the Bears to win. I'll happily take an L on that one and get that pick wrong all day long. It's just that, with me, I am a little older than you, so I have the history of watching the Dolphins win ridiculous games against the Bears, including one that Marino got over on us in the early 90s. You wouldn't believe one of the pull this up on YouTube. I promise you won't believe your eyes. Marino makes a throw. I can't remember who it was. Maybe it was Tony Martin or somebody like that. He is literally being smothered by the defender. It's pass interference, no doubt. He somehow manages to take one hand around the defender's back and catch the ball, hold the ball against the defender, therefore catching the ball. So never mind the pass interference call. You've got the gain like that. I mean, but that's the kind of game that was that day. The Bears were a better team than the Dolphins. And more times than not, that has been the case. That is, like, record wise or on paper or whatever. It doesn't matter. The Dolphins seem to find a way to beat us every single time. So we've gotten a couple wins over the Dolphins, but nothing that really mattered. But it was always like, whenever we're putting our best foot forward, the 2018 squad, the 2006 Super Bowl team, the 85 Bears, every one of those teams has a loss that belongs to the Miami Dolphins. So, history more than anything probably leads me to believe Miami's going to come out on top for this one.
Right on. So I meant to go back and pull up the stats. I didn't get it done. That's on me. But I know Lamar Jackson had a hell of a day against us. That's the most mobile quarterback that we've played this season. Obviously, probably the most mobile in the league. We haven't faced Kyler Murray or anybody else that's even near that caliber. Mm-hmm. Justin Fields is going to be that guy. We actually did do relatively well against Josh Allen when we played the Bills. Obviously, we managed to pull out a W in that game, despite what the box score says. But
It also helps that you guys play on the surface of the goddamn sun
you'll love to
down
see it.
there.
I
Ugh.
wish it were hotter.
That was one of the factors in that loss in 2018 was that it was about 116 degrees on the field that day, and we were suffering for it for sure.
What I
So
love
yeah.
that the Dolphins take full advantage, make sure to wear full whites, make the opponent come in and wear, in your case, blues.
Oh, and also you have the sun beating down on them because of
The
what
way,
time
yeah,
the
the
game
awning.
takes place, and
Yeah.
that awning that you guys put there, savages, man.
But so I do think if I had to say what I think the key to the game is obviously the Bears are number one in rushing. And I think the more important side of that, as you said, is to contain Justin Fields. I think that the Dolphins have the tools to do that. They have athletic linebackers in Jalen Phillips, in now Bradley Chubb, Jerome Baker. As you said, one of those guys is going to have to be kept in as a spy. I think that you can't let these guys just pin their ears back and try to go get them. You need to do a contain rush, control your rushing lanes, and not just let them take off to burn you. We did see that against Kenny Pickett. It was like 3rd and 20, and that fool gets out and picks up a huge third down conversion. We can't be allowing a bunch of that on Sunday. I think that's going to be the key on the defensive side of the ball. On the offensive side of the ball, I think it's just going to be to win the turnover battle. I think as long as Miami doesn't find a way to beat themselves in this game,
Right.
it's on them to win it. I think, as you said, if you look at these rosters, I think it's nothing against the Bears, but they're a year behind on the
Yeah,
rebuild. As we
for
talked
sure.
about,
Yeah.
they have the huge draft coming up that's going to be really important to them moving forward, as well as 120 plus million in cap space. We're just a year ahead. That's just what it is.
Yeah.
So it's on the Dolphins to just not lose this game.
Yeah, because head to head, like straight up, everything, all things being equal, if you will, the Dolphins have the better team.
Mhm.
That's just where we're at right now. So, they would expect, or you would expect, anyone would expect the better team to win.
Mhm.
We know that doesn't always happen in the NFL. That doesn't always happen. But, as long as you said, like if they can avoid turnovers and giving the Bears and Justin Fields extra chances with the ball, and also field position is a big deal
Yeah, we've been losing
as
that a lot
well.
this year.
Even though our offense has been playing better, we're still working on it. And therefore, you want to keep us on the wrong side of our 20 and not, don't give us the ball at midfield. That won't end well.
Mhm.
Whether it's we're kicking field goals all day long or we're actually scoring touchdowns, field position, turnover battle, things like that, is how the Dolphins will win the game for sure.
Yeah, I think the game opened up as the Dolphins being 4-point favorites, and then now after the Bradley Chubb trade, I saw it jump to 5-point favorites. So I mean, again, Vegas has it too. It's the Dolphins' game to lose here. If you had to say for the Bears to be able to get a W in this game, what would you say they need to do to be able to get an upset in Chicago?
Get to Tua, you know, um, get some turnovers. That would definitely help. I mean, we had 4 against the Patriots. That was a huge help in getting that win. And of course, conversely, we only had 1 against the Cowboys, and I think we had 2 or 3 against them. So I mean, we lost the turnover battle there, despite running 17 more plays and having 8 minutes more time of possession. It really does come down to it. I mean, I bellyached like you would not believe after that Commanders loss on Thursday night because the Bears dominated that game for the most part. And basically it came down to 4 plays that helped Washington win that game. You know, um, number one, it was Jonathan Allen catching the ball that Justin Fields skipped off somebody's forehead and the line of scrimmage. He literally threw a ball off somebody's helmet. It goes straight up in the air. He catches it, kills the drive. The second one, the Bears get inside the red zone. It's 4th and goal at the 1. Khalil Herbert's is one-on-one with the linebacker. The linebacker wins. We don't score. Give the ball back to Washington. Play number 3, Velus Jones muffs a punt. The Commanders recover. 3 plays later, they score a touchdown that basically won them the game. That's it. The rest of it was the Bears basically winning the football game. Ran the most plays, better on 3rd down, way more time of possession, way more yard. Like Carson Wentz threw for 99 yards and he was the winning quarterback that night. It really just comes down to a few moments in the game that can really put you over the top. And that game is prime example of that happening. So if you can avoid those big mistakes, turning the football over or anything like that, you should be able to win on Sunday against the Bears.
Right on. Okay, so I did this for the first time with the Vikings podcast that we were both guests on. I don't normally do projections, but
Yeah.
it seems like it's the thing that you allegedly have to do on these shows. So I'm gonna put you on the spot. What's your prediction for Sunday?
Like final score or something like
Final
that?
score, yeah.
Oh, why not?
If you want to do something fun and throw out a yardage thing, if that's your thing,
Nah,
I won't say no, but that's for
I'm
the
not
birds.
that guy. That's crazy. No, let's say Dolphins 27-21.
Keeping it one possession, I like it. I want to go one possession.
I mean, aside from this past game against the Cowboys, that's what the Bears do.
Yeah,
They're in it. Yeah. They're in it all the way up until the end. I mean, just go back and look at our win-loss. Even our wins over, the Texans and the 49ers, the Patriots rule is the exception, where we won by 3 scores and everything. And then we lose by 3 scores to the Cowboys this past Sunday. Aside from these last 2 weeks, the first 6 weeks of the season is all 1-score games.
So it kind of seems to be the parity in the league this season. It's the
defense has been way ahead of offense this year for some reason. Mm-hmm. You're not exceeding, like you'd think that with your tools and everything, you guys would be breaking the scoreboard this year, scoring all those points with Hill and Waddle and Mostert running the football and that kind of stuff. Defense has been doing very well. It's like I think they're saying like this is the worst year as far as points per game, like over under, since like 2003 or something like that. I feel offenses just aren't scoring points the way they were before.
I feel like offensive line play has to be damn near at an all-time low. It's just if you can't protect your quarterback, if you can't open up run lanes, you're just not going to get scores.
I mean, Bears prime example. We're the best run team in the NFL, but we're the worst pass team in the NFL. It levels everything out.
Mm-hmm.
So
I hate doing these predictions. I'm not gonna lie. I put myself on the spot on this one. I still hate doing it.
Sure did.
I'm gonna go 31-21.
Okay.
Dolphins. Just if we can control the run game, I don't see why we should give up more than 21 points.
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep it close. Only 10 points, but I think we talked about it. I think if we control the turnover battle, limit Justin Fields, there's no reason to come out of Chicago without it. We got to get. The problem is I mean, you know how it is. You guys got the Vikings in your division this year. With the Bills being in the division, we can't. If you're expected to win the game, you have to get wins this year.
Yeah,
because the Bills are basically a scheduled out. We got lucky to get the first one, but I would say going into Buffalo later this season, that's a scheduled loss.
How late?
Late. I think it's the third to last week of the season.
Oh, so it's not going to be nice up there.
No, not at all. Yeah. Not at all. I mean, I don't know what the weather is right now in Buffalo, but it's supposed to. I'm in North Idaho, and it's supposed to snow tomorrow.
Yeah, my coach in college, our head coach, he was an assistant at the University of Buffalo out there. Ironically, at the same time Khalil Mack was there. But he was saying like the weather in Buffalo is amazing until it turns. And when it turns, it's the worst place on earth to possibly be, because it's 9 feet of snow, and how they're paying regular citizens to come into the stadium and shovel the place clean so they can actually have a football game take place there on Sunday. So it's like, once it turns, it's one of the more awful places in the States to live, because it is that northern New York and or whatever, close to Canada. Therefore, it's basically Siberia in America kind of thing.
The North Pole, yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah, we play them December 18th. So plenty late in the season.
Well, the week before we play them, they come to us on Christmas Eve.
Oh, right on.
Yeah.
You guys need to get that dub. We need that.
Let's see what we can do.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on the podcast. Really appreciate having you. You've been a joy. Do me a favor. Shout out your Twitter handle.
There you go.
Shout out where people can find you if they want to get your content. Just go ahead and.
Yeah, I'm BTU_Larry on Twitter and on Instagram. I have a Facebook group. Just search Bears Talk Underground on Facebook, and the podcast is Bears Talk Underground. You can find it virtually anywhere podcasts are available.
Right on, man. I appreciate you coming on. Other than that, if you guys want to do me a favor, you guys can leave a rating, whatever you guys think the podcast deserves. Let me know what you didn't like. Let me know what you did like. If you enjoyed it, be a friend, tell a friend. Go ahead and hit that like button if you're watching on YouTube. Go ahead and subscribe. I appreciate you guys. Fins up.